From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Adjusting street lamps and other exterior lights to let the stars shine more brilliantly. Town leaders in Grand Lake recently took the first steps toward those changes. They would join 5 other towns in Colorado that have already become dark sky communities. About 24 more dark sky places are in the pipeline, including communities and parks across Colorado. Advocates say limiting light pollution helps preserve views of the night sky, and it helps nocturnal creatures thrive. The Colorado Tourism Office thinks the dark sky designation helps towns attract visitors. We spoke earlier this year with Erin with the group Dark Sky Colorado. Today we're listening back to our conversation about why Colorado towns are taking this idea so seriously. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you live in Paonia, I understand, which is a small town where the stars are pretty bright at night. Could you tell me about how your experience as a stargazer in Paonia helped inspire the work that you do now?
Yeah, sure. So Paonia, exactly. We have an amazing view of the night sky. And once I moved here and was living here for a while, I started to realize how beautiful it was and how lucky we were to have it. And that's when I bought my first telescope. I started getting into stargazing and started learning about dark skies, why it's important to protect the night skies, and also like how much we're losing the night skies across the world. And so it's really becoming a big problem.
So dark sky advocacy is an international movement. Can you talk a little bit about what is lost or what harm is caused by light pollution in the night sky?
Yeah, there's a number of things. So with light pollution in the night sky, first you lose your view of the stars. And that's been something that we've had throughout all of history. Like many cultures throughout history have had a connection in their mythology with the stars, so that direct link we're losing. A lot of people are growing up in an inner city where they're never seeing the stars or the Milky Way. Another thing that I think people don't realize is the ecological impacts of too much artificial light, like bird migration, for example. Most birds migrate at night and they are devastated by artificial light. They get trapped by it. They smash into windows and buildings, and literally like millions upon millions of birds are dying each year during their migration because of artificial light. And then insects, when they're circling around the light, they're also dying in great numbers because of artificial light. So, those are just 2 examples of species. Virtually all species are impacted by too much artificial light. And then just human health as well. There's a number of major implications from too much artificial light on our human health. It affects our melatonin, our circadian rhythm. That's shown to have some really major impacts on metabolic disease, cancers, things like that.
So becoming a dark sky community is something that can take years. Now, if I'm a leader in a town like Grand Lake, how do you help me through the process as an advisor?
Yeah, so the process of becoming a certified dark sky town is very involved. It takes a lot of steps. It's pretty rigid guidelines that you have to follow. Like you have to take an inventory of all your public lighting and make sure it's compliant with dark skies. And another thing you need is a lighting ordinance. So you need to regulate how light is used in your town. Our organization, Dark Sky Colorado, we have a program where we help towns go through that certification process. And so we can help with the legal aspects. We can help with the technical aspects of, seeing if your lighting is compliant and looking for good lighting choices that you can replace your lighting with.
I'm so curious how you kind of measure the darkness in a town. Like, is there equipment?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a device we have called a unihedron sky quality meter. We call it an SQM for short. And it's, it's about the size of a cell phone. You can hold it in your hand and it has a little light meter on the top. You point that up towards the sky and it actually can measure how dark it is. And so if you're in a dark place, out in the country where there's not a lot of artificial light, you'll get a darker reading than if you're in a city, you'll get a much brighter reading. And so we can actually quantify that.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I have to wonder, because, asking a town to dim its lights or maybe making sure they point downward as they shine could be controversial. What are your conversations like with people who are worried that changing the lights will make their towns maybe less safe at night?
Yeah, that's a great point. Safety is the biggest issue we come against here with our dark sky work. And I think the biggest thing people don't realize is with dark skies, we're not trying to really take the light away. We advocate for light where it's needed. So, on the ground, if you're needing light for safety, if there's people around, definitely use light there. But you don't need to shine that light into the sky. So really it's about directing the light exactly where you need it and then using it where you need it. So it's like a win-win. You have it for safety and you can also preserve your night sky at the same time.
Right. And what about businesses? The town of Westcliff, for example, they're a certified dark sky community, but I believe it had some skeptical business owners who certainly didn't want to make their business signs less visible. What happened there as the town adjusted its lights?
What we are seeing with dark sky there, you not only get the quality of life for having, the dark sky lighting, the responsible lighting, but also it does bring a tourism draw. So in Westcliff, they have an amazing one, like a beautiful observatory. It's a building with a roll-off roof, and they have a really nice telescope. And they do tours, I think, weekly. They'll have people come, and it's become an international sensation. It's booked for months in advance. You can't even get a place. And so it helps bring the tourism. It helps with business that way. So even though there are some restrictions, like you can't have your sign on all night, you're getting more people in the long run who are learning about this because it's an international designation. So, when you become a dark sky town, a lot of people will know about this throughout the whole world.
Yeah. Well, cost is always a factor anytime, an initiative like this is happening. I'm wondering how much it costs to replace a typical exterior light with one that's approved by Dark Sky Colorado.
That's a good question because it can be more expensive to use a dark sky light. Like in my hometown, you go to the hardware store, you can get one of those jelly jar lights, or the cheap kind, and they cost maybe like $15, where to get a fully approved dark sky light that's fully shielded and has maybe a motion sensor or something, that can be $40 or $50. So it tends to be more expensive. But what we're seeing in these dark sky places is there's funds that are becoming available. Usually there's an initiative that's raising money to help pay for these lighting upgrades. So it's not a huge burden on the people changing their lights. And
you, I would imagine, do outreach and events, maybe organizing stargazing events. Is that part of the work you do?
Absolutely. Becoming a dark sky community, that's the fun part. There's the ordinances and lighting. That can be hard, but
the less fun part.
Exactly. But getting out and seeing the stars, that's a part of it too. You have to do community events. And so doing stargazing events or doing night walks, looking at nocturnal wildlife, things like that. Yeah, it's really exciting. And that's the fun part because people want to get out and see the stars. And once you see the stars, then you want to protect that view.
Yeah. There is something about looking into the vast night sky and just contemplating everything, isn't there?
There is, yeah. Even astronauts have that overview effect where they've scientifically proven it changes your brain when you have an experience like that. So absolutely.
Well, Erin, I want to thank you so much for talking with us today about this unusual work that you do.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Erin Watson is a dark sky consultant with Dark Sky Colorado. The list of places pursuing dark sky status includes mountain towns like Grand Lake and Estes Park, as well as Berthoud on the Front Range. That's it for us today here on In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thank you so much for listening.